Hello and welcome to my Mars Mantra podcast. And today it's a very special session and I'm really excited. And I'm doing this session on a video app today because I want you all to see this special person called Ed Clancy. And he's also an OBE. Nobody knows what OBE is. What's OBE, Ed?
That's a great first question. What is an OBE? So there's different levels in this: MBE, OBE, CBE, and then I think you get your knighthood or damehood. And
Sir,
I think OBE stands for Officer of the British Empire.
Oh dear.
It's
Mouthful.
Don't get me wrong. It's a really nice day, and it's amazing to bring my mum and my sister and my stepdad into the palace. But I'm still trying to work out what it gets you. But it was a nice award. So, yeah.
Okay. Yes. So Ed Clancy OBE is a cyclist and he won the Olympic gold medal 3 times and a bronze medal for Team GB cycling sport. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. So 3 Olympic golds, 1 bronze. Yeah.
And hundreds of other medals in the World Cycling Championship, was it?
Yeah, so I think I won maybe 5 or 6 World Championships, and I got a fair.
You can't remember how many.
Yeah, plenty of silvers and bronzes, but there must be hundreds of medals from smaller races over the years. But yeah,
You must be filled up with medals.
I guess I'm kind of lucky these days. I have a little downstairs part to my house, and it's almost I'll get rid of it at some point, but it's almost like a bit of a shrine down there to sort of like the glory days of cycling. And I've got a couple of nice bikes hung on the wall, and yeah, it's nice. But honestly, Rumana, like the older I get, the less I'm bothered about the medals and the achievements and winning or losing. Even I just think it was a great way to sort of misspend my childhood, my youth. And I'm 40 years old now. I retired when I was 36, and maybe we'll go through this journey a little bit. But when I was a kid, I didn't really have any interest in academics or schoolwork, and I just loved riding my bike. It was my first love, and as a 40-year-old man-child, I still love it. Still the best thing in my life. Yeah.
That's brilliant. So tell us more where you grew up. I know that you grew up in a city or small town called Barnsley. Tell us about the place, where it is.
Barnsley, yeah. So Barnsley's in South Yorkshire, which is in the north of England. And I guess South Yorkshire is really characterised by the sort of decline of the Industrial Revolution, really. Sort of all the pit mines and villages, went through hard times in South Yorkshire, and all the mills and the steel works, eventually sort of fell upon hard times. And Barnsley, when I was a lad, was a relatively challenged place, but I'm really pleased to say that there's a fella called Sir Steve who's been leading the council there for decades now, and yeah, he's done a great job. And Barnsley is actually a really, really nice place. They've pedestrianised the whole city centre, and yeah, it's a grand place to be. Honestly, it's really nice. I was sat outside the glassworks, it's called, having a cappuccino the other day, and I thought, wow, this place is transformed. But yeah, I grew up around Barnsley, and I guess following my parents' divorce when I was 4 or 5 years old, we moved just across the border to a place called Denby Dale. I think that was just on the border of South and West Yorkshire, and yeah, I still went to school in a place called Springvale in Penistone, which is in South Yorkshire. And yeah, I mean, as often is the way, following parents' divorce, I was a little bit lost, and I had no positive male role model in my life, and yeah, I just gravitated toward bikes and lived with my grandparents for a few years. And my granddad was a great guy. I remember him fondly, and yeah, I think that's where my sort of love of cycling came from. And and that kind of takes you to my sort of formative years.
So 4 years when you started cycling.
Yeah, I think it was about that, Rumana. I think, I mean, I wasn't from a cycling family. I wasn't from a cycling background. So, for me, it was just it was anything that I could get my hands on. You know, if that was a recycled bike that we got from the dump and did a bit with, or you know, sometimes my big brother had bikes that I remember used to get passed down to me when he grew out of them and I grew a bit bigger, and yeah, like I'd trade an awful lot to have that first white BMX I had. I remember it like yesterday with this like plastic 5-spoke mag wheels, and yeah, but of course back then, you know, I never set off trying to be anything or do anything in particular,
And then what happened?
well,
You know, when you were picked for the Olympic training.
yes. I mean, there's as you know, there's a lot that happens between sort of being a child and being a teenager and being a young person, and there was this really fortuitous moment. Well, there's a couple of fortuitous moments, I think. There's a guy called Ed Clancy, who's my stepdad, and you know, that's where I got my name from. And yeah, Kevin was a great guy. He still is. You know, he still mentors me. He still helps me out. And yeah, I think there was just a bit of a marriage in my head. I was like, right, there's a guy here that's ambitious and he does well, and you know, he's got a couple of Specsavers franchises. He's essentially a trained optician, which is great.
Specsavers.
Exactly. Oh, perfect. Yeah.
We're advertising.
Got a Specsavers ambassador in the room. Yeah. So yeah, he was just an optician, but he worked hard and he was a good role model. And then I just sort of combined this ambition and the love of cycling, and off we went. And we did a few club races and local races, and yeah, I remember there was again another fortuitous point in time where British Cycling were recruiting for the talent team, it was called, and it was literally that. You know, instead of just trying to find existing cyclists that always came from cycling families, it was a case of like talent ID. So they'd go into schools with like a watt bike or a techno gym bike that you might see in your local gym, and you know, we did like a 3-minute test and a 1-minute test and a sprint test, and I passed the criteria, and I guess that was my golden ticket to get on the talent pathways to the Great Britain cycling team. And you know, of course, it was many years before we got close to our first Olympics. You know, it was about 7 years of hard work, and I lived and grew up with some really big names in the sport: Mark Cavendish, Geraint Thomas, and we all lived together and moved into Manchester and sort of travelled the world as teenagers. And when we were in our young,
Exciting.
yeah, it was great. It was really exciting. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. You know, we had literally no money. We were all dead broke. We had a coach called Rod Ellingworth, who was amazing in hindsight, absolutely amazing, so dedicated. And you know, we learned some like really high performance values off that guy, and I think this stood with us for life. Yeah.
This is brilliant. And you mentioned that, you know, you won all these medals as a team. So teamwork is very important. And tell us more about all this teamwork and the amazing relationship you had with your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, teamwork, let's start with that. I think I mentioned the words high performance principles, and I'm very much of the opinion that no athlete, I don't care what you see on Instagram or what you see on the TV, no athlete's made it on their own. I don't think anyone's really become a self-made millionaire. Like, when you think about it, somebody's had to buy their products, somebody's built them a website, someone's delivered their services, or somebody's at least bought them. What I'm saying is, success is a team sport. I don't care what walk of life you're in. And it was absolutely the same for me. You know, I was, you know, when you're an athlete, it's probably a little bit like being the lead singer in a band, isn't it? You're kind of there, and, you know, you have to deliver under the lights on the big stage. But ultimately, there's so many people that help you get there. You know, the physios, the psychiatrists, the sports scientists, the aerodynamicists. And yeah, I mean, success, even in my new role as active travel commissioner, it's just about successful collaboration with multiple stakeholders, if that makes sense.
Yes, and that's a good segue because Ed is the active travel commissioner for South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. So there are 4 cities: Doncaster, Sheffield, Barnsley, and Rotherham, which is combined as South Yorkshire. And Ed has been appointed by the mayor to promote active travel. And
Yeah,
that's why Mars Mantra podcast listeners will understand the importance of active traveling. And tell
yeah,
us more.
yeah. So let's start with the job role. I mean, yeah, I was like a lot of athletes. You know, I've been through this really successful period of time and done a lot of good things in cycling. And the truth be told, though, it's kind of hard not to see, retirement from being an athlete. When the tide goes out in your career, it's easy to see it as a tragedy. You kind of lose everything you built up for so many decades. And this opportunity came along to be active travel commissioner and work for Mayor Oliver. And in terms of Mayor Oliver and his manifesto, he's got this ambition to be the healthiest region in the UK. He wants to be the best place for walking, wheeling, and cycling for kids. And there's a couple of things about him and his belief in health that drew me to the job. And speaking about bikes, I won't bore you with the detail, but cycling is the best sport in the world. I'm convinced of it. But the interesting thing to me about cycling is it's way more than a sport. You can have such a humble, simple thing that's the most efficient machine known to humankind. When you look at how much energy it takes to transfer a certain distance, walking, running, buses, trams, trains, airplanes, helicopters, nothing even can hold a candle to how efficient a bike can move across a certain distance. I think it's a great tool for mental health, let alone physical health. And I just think, in terms of like fixing some of our worldly problems around like growth inequalities, getting people to jobs, opportunity, education, if people can't afford cars, and even if there's a well integrated public transport network, which there is down in London, and it isn't elsewhere. It's still out of reach for a lot of people. So I believe in bikes. I believe in health and activity, and So I mean, that's what drew me to the job.
So, what do you do for this job? Day to
Yeah,
day role?
yeah. So I think you can really sort of split my role in two halves. It is pretty much 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
So 50% of the time, you're local boy done good. You advocate for walking, wheeling, and cycling and the positive health benefits it brings. And sometimes you're speaking to elected members, sometimes you're speaking to the leaders and the execs of the councils, and sometimes you're speaking to school kids. So, you promote walking, wheeling, and cycling. That's half my job. The other half of my job is working behind the scenes with the officers. So all the people that make the good stuff happen. And
The local authorities?
yeah, so I work for the combined authority, and then we have these 4 local authorities. So we have Doncaster, Rotherham, Barnsley, Sheffield, and they've all got their own transport teams, right? And usually within each one, they've got dedicated resource to walking, wheeling, and cycling, or at least a matrix system. And it's our job to coordinate a big plan of attack across South Yorkshire. This is strategizing, isn't it? So we make a strategy. We say, right, if we're going to have a finite amount of energy, time, and resource, how can we make the biggest impact to our health inequalities in South Yorkshire? How can we make this place healthier, happier? How can we bring people to jobs and opportunities, through walking, wheeling, and cycling? And we've got to decide what's important to us, what we prioritise, who we prioritise, where we prioritise, and that's the other 50% of my job. So it's half advocacy, promoting, and it's half strategizing with the team.
Yeah, and that is how I came across about your role, because we were working in South Yorkshire combined together with the South Yorkshire Combined Authority, and we came across this travel plan. There is an integrated transport plan, and because you mentioned already that London's got a good transport system, but not the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So that's very important that other parts of the country gets the equal opportunities, as well as health issues you mentioned. I remember reading that Barnsley's got very low life expectancy rate.
Yeah.
So health and well-being. So what's that? Why is that like that in Barnsley? Why is it deprived, or
Yeah. Great.
what's the
Yeah.
cause? Because it's a really nice outdoors part of the country, but
Yeah.
why are there not enough health
Yeah.
health? Why
Great.
aren't there enough
Yeah.
health
Yeah.
issues?
The truth is, it's still sort of briefly mentioned like the sort of decline of the region, through the sort of mining and steel industry when it went south, and I kind of it's still a region that's overcoming economic renewal, and this isn't something that's unique to us, but you tend to find that the places that are sort of struggling economically are the ones that are struggling in terms of healthy life expectancy. We'll have a big burden on the NHS where we are, and but I mean, before we go all doom and gloom about South Yorkshire, I mean, I just believe in it. I believe there's strong, resilient, hard-working communities that have that stand the test of time. We've produced way better Olympians than me. There's Jess Ennis down the road in Sheffield, and I think there's so much potential because it's a region that's shaped by the sort of industrial past, but it's also a region that's shaped by like some of the most beautiful green surroundings, like you said. Like I've travelled the world with my cycling gig, and there's so many beautiful rivers, lakes, reservoirs, mountain bike trail centres. Yeah, I think South Yorkshire's got loads of potential. And that's what I really like about Mayor Oliver. He believes in this potential too. And, if we've got physical potential, that means we've got mental health potential as well. And it means we've got productivity and growth potential, because all these things are inextricably linked. And for me, it's an unbelievably exciting project. And I've absolutely loved it.
Yes,
It's a totally different world to elite sport, but it's he's great.
and I remember Mayor Oliver Coppard was saying that Sheffield is the outdoor city of the country. And I was there in December and it was so cold. It is really a very tough place, but
Yeah,
very beautiful. And you mentioned about Jessica Innes. I remember reading her autobiography. It
yeah,
was so scary because she had to sacrifice so much for
yeah,
practicing and the health. I mean, we all see the glory of being an Olympian, but
yeah,
you have to sacrifice a lot. It's not easy.
yeah.
And maybe that prepares you for all this big strategy you're doing now.
Yeah, 100%. So, there's a couple of things in that. You talked about sacrifice. Sacrifice. So, this word focus is often glamorized, I think. Like, I'm going to focus on my career, right? And it's like, wow, that's a nice thing to do. But I think the ugly truth is the word focus to me really is like 90% saying no to stuff. It's saying no to friends, it's saying no to family, it's saying no to going out and having a drink with your mates. It's saying no to kicking a football around on a stag do. It's no to weddings, funerals, birthday parties, Christmases, and for me, that's what focus meant, and that's what it took to be a good Olympian. And to a lesser extent, it still applies today. Perhaps I work hard. I haven't been home for the last 8 days. I try to slide in the odd social occasion like last night, but I still work hard. I still sacrifice things, but that's all right because I'm working on things I believe in. But I think another thing you alluded to there was like the learnings we took from sport, and I've heard and seen Jessica Ennis talk as well, and there's no doubt that sport is a great teacher. I believe, particularly for disengaged kids. It can teach you everything you need to know about teamwork, resilience, overcoming adversity, performing under pressure. Understanding what a strategy is in very basic terms. Football, rugby, they're strategy sports. And I think more so than like elite sport these days, I really believe in the power of grassroots sports and just getting kids involved in just sport. I think it brings out the best in people in ways that perhaps you just wouldn't get engaged with them otherwise.
Good that you mentioned, getting people engaged, especially kids, but
Yeah.
computers, games. We spend so much time on screen and we are doing this on screen. People will watch us, but this is it. It's a balance. And
Mm.
Pelton, yeah, was it Pelton you call it? Those bike people were,
Yeah.
using during COVID. Everything is fancified. I have invented a word, fancified, elite sport. So it's just, you think, oh, it's a luxury thing. It's for the posh people.
Yeah.
Great. break it down, because that's why I really liked, and I wanted to talk to you, because you grew up from a humble background and you came up this far. So you don't really need to be having all these facilities around you. If you have a dream, you can achieve.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I came from like, really quite a challenged life, my formative years, and it was, I was glad to escape the family house, to be honest, and live with my grandparents for a while. And yeah, it was a challenged upbringing. But I really believe that everyone has hidden potential. I'll say that. I think it's a myth that, you're kind of born to be a surgeon, you're born to be an athlete. Obviously, some of it will come down to genetics, but I think 9/10 of it is just about A, working hard at something you're passionate about, B, having opportunity, and C, having a good mentor. And I think, with those sort of three things, you've kind of got a bit of a holy trinity of achieving great things. And, opportunity is an interesting one. And, in some ways, I was very, very lucky that Jason Queally won an Olympic gold medal in the year 2000. That funding brought around this talent team that I mentioned. There was my opportunity. I worked hard because I love bikes, I love cycling, I was passionate about it. And I had a good mentor with my stepdad, Kevin. But I think the truth is, like, not every kid will have that. There'll be kids that are working really hard at something they're passionate about, whether it's education, they want to be a doctor, a surgeon, an astronaut, a teacher. But, unless we provide opportunity and good mentors for them, I think, unfortunately, some hidden talent will slide through the net, if that makes sense.
Good that you mentioned the word mentor, because
Yeah.
I think when I watch my son doing all these computer games and watching YouTube videos, I think they have plenty of influencers out there.
Yeah.
And when I ask him, what do you want to be? He used to be saying when he was young that I want to be a train driver, but now he wants to be a YouTube gamer, because there are plenty of influencers and mentors who are
Yeah.
influencing them. And it's really a difficult time kids are growing up in.
It is difficult. It's I'm of an age where I can't really see what some people see in it. For me, there's nothing can touch like the joy and the freedom of being out of the city. Even like where I live, I'll go into the Peak District and I ride my mountain bike or my electric mountain bike, and I just feel alive. And there's loads of evidence and research that shows being outdoors in green spaces is strangely beneficial for your mental health, and I like that. And I like everyone. I'll get carried away and I'll start scrolling on Instagram. And the funny thing is, it's kind of addictive, but at the same time, I always put the phone down, feeling worse about life. So, yeah, I'm very grateful I grew up without that. We just about had a Nokia 3310. But I think the next generation might argue that it can be a blessing as well as a curse. And
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
It depends how you use it.
exactly, yeah, like a knife. You can use it to injure someone, you can use it to nourish. And I just kind of think, now and again, there's things that pop up on my Instagram. There's sort of like philosophy quotes and things like that, and inspirational quotes, and like good performance consultants like Matthew Syed and sort of Steve Covey quotes pop up and thing now and again, and I'm like, wow, that's actually been a positive experience. So I don't really know what the answer is, and I'm pretty sure that it'll be a difficult world to govern anytime soon. But yeah, I think it could be a positive thing as well.
Exactly. And this is why we think that, Mars Mantra is leaving people with their own positive note. And you already mentioned about three things, which is opportunity,
Yeah, it's opportunity.
mentors. First one I forgot.
Good mentor, yeah. So yeah, opportunity, a good mentor, and working hard at something you're passionate about. Yeah.
Exactly. And, you mentioned that all these influencers and Instagram and things like that, but you are doing a brilliant job. You are training children to ride
Yeah.
bikes. And so you didn't mention about that role.
Yeah, yeah. This is a few years back now, but I mean, when I initially retired, I've got a cycling academy called Clancy Briggs, and I set it up with A great fella called Graham Briggs and his wife, who's an accountant. So she was the brains behind the business, really. And, me and Graham had a name from the cycling world. And yeah, Graham's a great guy, super passionate as well about getting kids on bikes. And yeah, we started off at the Doncaster Cycle Centre, which is in South Yorkshire. And it was great, there's loads of kids still that ride the bikes on the Doncaster Dome Cycle Centre. They do a lot of mountain biking these days. And I know they've just been to Warncliffe Woods in Sheffield recently. And yeah, I like that. It was something I was really passionate about. But yeah, the truth be told, I was just so busy with work with British Cycling and my active travel commissioner. I just had to sort of step back from the project.
Mm-hmm.
Graham and Sam were and still are doing an amazing job. So yeah, I was very proud that I could play a small part in getting that set up and doing a little bit. But I mean, that's just that's one of many things. There's so many great there's charitable projects out there like Bikeability, government funded, Cycling UK. I was down at their big birthday celebration for the big bike revisal in Parliament a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I've kind of realised in the afterlife of cycling that there's so many great people, with the best intentions doing like amazing stuff, and I'm not quite sure I'm there yet, but I hope in 5 or 10 years' time that I can do a little bit more of that.
You mentioned afterlife of cycling. I think this is more impactful life you're leading now, Ed, because you're doing this influencing or mentoring all these children. And especially the reason I was attracted to your work is that because you are building the city in a very sustainable way.
Yeah,
And as I come from Bangladesh, we had cycle rickshaws, but now it's just, we are copying the West. We think that, if you just block the rickshaws because they're slow, they make traffic jam and have cars, things
yeah,
will be better. But now we have too many cars like rest of the world and more traffic problems. So this is why I wanted to have this key message from you that, there are good role models which we can learn from the East as well. And in London or other, like Paris, I've seen, they have cycle rickshaws for tourists, and they
yeah,
earn a lot than a normal taxi.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, I know I'm biased, and of course, my sort of my early experiences, my experience as a young adult, and as a middle-aged fella now. But yeah, I believe in health, and I believe in movement. Movement is medicine. I believe in that link between physical health and mental health, and being a positive on those around you as well. And you kind of touched on my purpose in life these days, and truth be told, when you're an athlete, it's despite the fact that you work in a team, I still think to a large extent it's a self-focused act, if that makes sense. Really, you want the best for your team, you want the best for your pals, and you want the best for yourself. You want money, you want prestige, you want power, you want success. And all the smartest people I've seen, yeah, they'll do that. In their 20s, 30s, they might go and try and be an athlete or a tech entrepreneur or whatever it is. But I think there's a lot of people that I've seen really successfully sort of change in the second half of their working life to be good managers, to be good leaders, which is not about barking orders. It's about bringing up those that come behind you. And I think a lot about Chris Boardman, who is our National Active Travel Commissioner, and I had a poster of that guy on a bike on a wall when I was a kid, and he was an athlete, and he'd have pursued all those things that I just mentioned there. But now his life purpose is about making the world better for everybody else. He advocates for cycling. He brings in a lot of money to support bike lanes so people can feel safe and able to do it. And he's a massive advocate for things like Bikeability, which teaches kids how to ride bikes in school. And yeah, I think when I'm looking back on it all on my deathbed, I won't be that bothered about what bike races are won and lost. But I think I'll see my time as trying to advocate for cycling and trying to upskill South Yorkshire a little bit as time well spent.
that's a brilliant ending, Ed. You mentioned that, what you want to see from your deathbed. So you won't be able to count all your all your assets, all your medals. But
Yeah,
it can go to the antique roadshow, and people, your grandchildren can make a lot of
yeah,
money selling granddad's
yeah.
medals.
Hey, honestly, I mean, we joke about it, but I mean, they honestly mean less and less to me. Like, with every sort of passing week and month. And don't get me wrong, it's great that I can show them to
Of
kids.
course, it's a recognition.
And yeah, I was down at a big dinner in London a couple of nights ago, and there's a lot of business people that were, excited to see the medals because it's just a different walk of life. But that's the only thing that's meaningful to me about them now. And I really want to focus the next half of my working life on sort of altruism, cooperation, and trying to make this place a little bit better.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ed. And you know what? I learned how to ride a bike when I first came to Oxford in my 30s. So maybe I should go and do some bikeability training from you guys or in my local area. I'm
100%.
scared. I have to learn from my son because whenever it comes to turning, I just stop and then walk with my bike. I'm too nervous because I think I'm going to fall down.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, honestly, I mean, like, there might be more people that listen to your podcast that feel like you, but the thing, like I said, I don't just see cycling as like an elitist, high performance,
Exactly.
world record smashing thing. I want it to be accessible to everyone, and I'm a huge fan. Honestly, a huge fan of e-bikes. I think they make it more accessible. They're comfy. They have mud guards on, big tires. You don't have to worry about having punctures. They're relatively maintenance free, and I think like electric assist micro mobility is going nowhere. So get on your bike for me, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, that's another message. Do what you're good at. Don't try to do everything.
Yeah, or at least do
You
what
can
you're in.
try. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But again, like, I mean, it's I think it's great that you've started riding bikes, in your 30s, and I sincerely hope you do it every day as much as you want. And but I believe in kids, and I believe that if you have a passion and interest in something in your youth, it kind of stays with you for life. Like, I mean, I never really went swimming as a kid, and guess what? I still can't swim now, but I know I'm biased, but I just think cycling is such a great life skill. I can hop on a line bike round here in London and beat the traffic, and I don't have to go on the tube, and I can go home and get out into the great outdoors. And
Oh, so
yeah,
you brought your bike here in
no, I
London?
didn't know. No, I just hire the bikes. I use
The
like
line bike, yes. You can hire
yeah,
the electric bikes.
yeah, they're good fun. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, they're much better than the scooters. They look scary. I think
yeah,
they
yeah,
banned scooters in Paris because of traffic. Yeah.
yeah. It's an interesting one with electric scooters. I mean, like you said, it's cars can become problematic if there's too many in cities and towns, but yeah, I mean, electric bikes are generally well received. We've got to make sure they've sort of parked where they're not going to block, wheelchairs and buggies and things like that. But yeah, e-scooters are a little bit different. But I guess everyone's learning. Nobody's seen this before.
No, and I think that there are, sometimes there are cycling accidents even in Oxford and London. So people still have this fear about, having accidents. So
Yeah, absolutely.
lots to do for you, Ed.
There is. There's a lot to do, and you're very right to pick up on the safety aspect. You mentioned it yourself. You feel a bit nervous on bikes. Safety and feelings of safety are the number one reason people don't ride bikes. So again, we spoke about Chris Boardman earlier, but he campaigns hard to get proper segregated bike lanes away from roads, and yeah, that's what makes a big difference.